Good morning. A very good morning and welcome to today's episode of Talking Fingers, brought to you by the Spectrum Autism community. I'm Tanushree, your host for the day. I'm a mother, an author, and a proud member of the Spectrum Autism community. As famous educator Peter Drucker once said, the most important thing about education is sharing what isn't said. And thanks to the Talking Fingers initiative, several non-verbal neurodivergent youngsters have found the way to communicate their precious, long-suppressed thoughts and feelings to the world. Talking Fingers already has two published and widely loved volumes where numerous non-verbal youngsters have taken the readers to an incredibly enlightening journey into their minds by documenting their experiences and their thoughts in their very own words. Today, we have with us Mr. Sumit Saxena, who is the parent of Ishan Saxena, co-author of the book Talking Fingers, Volume 2. Sumit is a dedicated father of a 14-year-old son who is on autism spectrum and a daughter who is 10 years of age. And Sumit is also an entrepreneur with love for numbers, sports, and chess. He believes that autism is a shared condition between the child, the parents, and the society and must be dealt with at all these levels. Today, he is here to share his experiences and insights as a parent who is raising both his kids with equal vigor and compassion. Welcome to the show, Sumit. It's
Thank you
great
so
to
much.
have you here today.
I was waiting to see if you will read the last line. The last line, and for the audience, I will read it out. Not read it out, but say it, because I think it's relevant for this conversation. So it says, "I can't dance, I can't sing," right? And the world needs to accept that, right? Acceptance is
Oh,
what we're going to talk
absolutely.
about. You have to also accept rhythmically challenged people, and I think
Absolutely.
right? So if we are
I totally share your views over
correct, I
here
mean,
because I'm the same myself.
yeah. So if we are accepting, and if this is about acceptance, you have to accept my shortcomings as well. So let me put out my shortcomings right at the beginning.
I'm totally with you in this regard because I'm the same as you.
Hmm.
Totally creatively challenged when it comes to dancing and singing and everything.
Right, absolutely.
So,
This is
Sumit,
not about
let's begin.
acceptance. Yeah, absolutely.
So, to begin with, tell us something about your journey so far from a father's perspective.
Hmm. Okay, so मैं start करता हूँ discovery phase से, right? So Ishan was about one and a half years. Milestones obviously delayed थे. He didn't crawl, started walking directly, and मैं कुछ पहले के आपके वो फेसबुक लाइव देख रहा था, उसमें कुछ और पेरेंट्स ने भी एग्जैक्टली यही बोला है कि वो जो बच्चा है वो क्रॉल नहीं किया, स्ट्रेट स्टार्टेड वॉकिंग। सिमिलरली बहुत सारे दूसरे जो थे माइलस्टोन्स मिस होने लगे। सो स्पेशली अराउंड 2 इयर्स हमने रियलाइज किया कि वो बोल नहीं रहा है। इनफैक्ट बेसिक मम्बल जो बच्चा करता है, मम्मा डाडा, वो भी नहीं हो रहा है। सो एट दैट पॉइंट थोड़ा सा इंक्लिंग हुआ कि शायद कुछ मिसिंग है। तो हम गए, लाइक एनी पेरेंट वुड, पीडियाट्रिशियन के पास। पीडियाट्रिशियन ने हमें बोला, नहीं नहीं, उसके कान में फ्लूइड है। सो बिकॉज वो सुन नहीं पा रहा है, इसलिए वो बोल नहीं पा रहा है ना। मुझे तब तक थोड़ा बहुत मैं रिसर्च कर रहा था ये क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज हो सकती है। जो दो डिस्टिंक्ट पॉसिबिलिटीज थी, वाज वन कि ये शायद सुन नहीं पा रहा है, एंड सेकंड वाज कि ये लर्निंग डिसेबिलिटी है। एंड मुझे बहुत क्लियरली याद है जब हम उस डॉक्टर के पास से वापस आए थे, तो माय वाइफ एंड आई वर हैविंग अ कॉन्वर्सेशन, एंड आई सेड, आई रियली होप कि ये सुन नहीं पा रहा है एंड दैट इज द कॉज ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम। बिकॉज अगर ये वो है जो मुझे लग रहा है ये है, देन इट्स अ लाइफ लॉन्ग थिंग एंड देयर इज नो सोल्यूशन फॉर इट।
So,
एंड
you always had this in the back of your mind
I
that it
had this
could
at the
be the
back of
case.
my mind to the extent कि I was okay if he had a earpiece in his ear, and I know वो भी एक challenge है, and it's very hard for kids with those machines, because obviously, especially when you're growing up, other kids can be insensitive and all. But for me, it was lesser of the two problems, right? So ठीक है, solution तो है। तो एनीवे वो हुआ, हम उसका कान का फ्लूइड के लिए एक मिरिंगोटॉमी करके एक सर्जरी होती है, वो सर्जरी हुई। डॉक्टर ने बोला अब नाउ वेट फॉर 3 मंथ्स, धीरे धीरे वर्ड्स फॉर्म होने लगेंगे। वर्ड्स फॉर्म नहीं हुए, सो एट दैट पॉइंट वी वर बियॉन्ड दैट डिनायल फेज कि हाँ ये ठीक हो जाएगा, ये हम स्टेप लेंगे, ये ठीक हो जाएगा। So we went to specialists, and they said कि look, we don't want to label it right now, but possibly this looks like autism spectrum, but let's wait out for some time, right? तो उसके बाद डिनायल का नेक्स्ट फेज चालू होता है, राइट? अब आपको लगता है कि नहीं, ये बॉर्डर लाइन है, ये अपने आप रिजॉल्व हो जाएगा। एंड द गुड थिंग इज कि बहुत बच्चों में ये अपने आप रिजॉल्व हो भी जाता है। अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे केस में ये रिजॉल्व नहीं हुआ, एंड डिनायल देन गोज टू द थर्ड लेवल, राइट? कि नहीं नहीं ठीक है, ऑटिज्म है, बट आइंस्टाइन भी ऑटिज्म था, ऑटिस्टिक था, निकोला टेस्ला भी ऑटिस्टिक था। तो आप वो सेवांट वाले फेज में चले जाते हो कि नहीं, बच्चा जो है एक्चुअली ऑटिस्टिक नहीं है, बच्चा जो है वो एक्चुअली आइंस्टाइन है, राइट? सो एट दैट पॉइंट आई थिंक यू आर टचिंग ऑन होप, राइट? एंड मैं आपका लास्ट टाइम का फेसबुक लाइव देख रहा था, चिन्नू की मदर, एंड चिन्नू टर्न्ड आउट टू बी अ सेवांट, which is good, बट फैक्ट ये है कि 99 out of 100 kids would not turn out to be a savant, right? So after some time you realize कि नहीं, he's not a
Because
savant.
it's a vast spectrum.
it's
It's a
it's
huge
it's a vast spectrum,
spectrum.
right? That is why it's called
Yes,
a
and you
spectrum,
cannot
right?
generalize. You
आप
cannot
एक छोटी
generalize.
हाइट, एक एंड ऑफ जो उसका टेल पकड़ के आप सोच रहे हो कि सब सब बच्चे वहां पे होंगे, बट नहीं, 99 आउट ऑफ 100 बच्चे जो होंगे वो उस पार्ट ऑफ स्पेक्ट्रम में नहीं होंगे, राइट? तो आप एक अदर इवॉल्व लेवल ऑफ डिनाइल पे जाते हो कि इसका कोई सोल्यूशन जरूर होगा, राइट? समबडी मस्ट हैव डन सम रिसर्च समवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड जो कि इसको सॉल्व कर देगा। एंड एज अ फादर एंड समबडी हु इज वेरी लाइक रिसर्च savvy and all, I would go and read like all research papers that were around. I would read any news that अभी भी मेरे वो गूगल के अंदर जो है वो नोटिफिकेशन है ऑटिज्म का, तो एवरी वीक आई गेट all the news about autism, that anything that happens anywhere in the world, और आप ढूंढते हो कि अच्छा यहाँ पे ये हुआ, और इससे जो है वो बच्चा बोलने लगा, राइट? यू आर विलिंग टू ट्राई एनीथिंग एंड एवरीथिंग। सो इवन फॉर somebody who's as rationalist as I am, you are even willing to go and look at practitioners who are probably they shouldn't exist but they do exist, hoping कि शायद कुछ हो जाएगा। And then and मेरे हिसाब से none of this is wrong, right? All of this you need to do to come to a place where acceptance happens, and only after you have gone through this whole process of coming through denial can you actually come to acceptance. Now इस जब आपके solutions फेल हो जाते हैं और acceptance आती है, उसके उसके साथ में एक potentially बहुत dangerous phase आता है of trying to find a cause, क्यों हुआ,
Right.
right? There is nothing good that can come out of it, क्योंकि इवन साइंटिस्ट को नहीं पता कॉज क्या हुआ, बट फॉर ह्यूमन माइंड जो कि जहाँ पैटर्न नहीं भी होता वहां पैटर्न ढूंढ लेता है, इट्स वेरी इजी टू फाइंड अ cause which is a phantom cause, which is not a real cause.
Find something to blame others for the things
Something
happening to
ठीक
us.
है,
Yeah.
but someone is a problem, right?
There has
Invariably,
to be. There has to be some cause.
हाँ, there has to be some cause. You
Yeah.
did this and therefore it happened. The
Exactly.
easiest victim of this blame, unfortunately, is mother,
Mother.
right?
Absolutely agree.
You start to blame the mother, the mother starts to blame herself as well, right?
Yeah, she didn't take good care of herself during the gestation
Correct.
period, and
During the
maybe
gestation.
something is there in
Correct.
their family and everything.
Correct.
Yeah, it
Correct. Correct.
happens
हाँ,
so frequently, and you have
absolutely.
touched upon a very important point here.
या सो वो ये जो डेंजरस फेज है, आई थिंक ओवरकमिंग दिस कैन मेक और ब्रेक द यूनिट, राइट? द यूनिट बीइंग यू, द पेरेंट, मदर एंड फादर, right? Because autism is not a one parent job, it's a unit
Absolutely.
parent job. You need a mother,
I'm glad you,
you need a
so
father.
glad you said that,
हाँ,
and you acknowledged that, because most parents, in most families, we do not see that mother becomes the sole caregiver to the
correct.
child.
Yeah. No, I have a issue with this word caregiver, right? Um, and the issue is कि you will not use. So I have a 10-year-old daughter, and a lot of my perspectives about Ishan, my 14-year-old son, is also molded by be as a father to a neurotypical child, राइट, बिकॉज वो एक थोड़ा सा बेंचमार्क मिल जाता है मुझे कि अच्छा, अगर फॉर एग्जांपल कल मेरी डॉटर का डेंटिस्ट अपॉइंटमेंट था। आई हैव नोटिस कि जब भी उसको ये डेंटिस्ट या कोई भी ऐसे डॉक्टर के पास जाना होता है जहाँ पे उसको लगता है कि अच्छा ये थोड़ा शायद इंजेक्शन लगा देंगे मुझे या ये मेरा मुंह खोल के कुछ करेंगे, तो शी टर्न्स टू मी फॉर सेफ्टी, राइट? सो obviously as a child she's looking at me. I'm not generalizing it to all fathers or all parents, but to me she looks as somebody who can safeguard her, okay, for whatever reason,
अच्छा,
right? So for whatever reason it's me being my personality being projected to my kids in a way that they see me as a protector, right? Up, I'm assuming that because I'm the same father, same person to my other child also, Ishan also, he looks to me in the same way, right? So it's not just caregiver. So caregiver का कम I said कि मुझे problem है, and I'll tell you why there is a problem, right? When we were growing up, मतलब boys in general were not trained to be caregivers, right? आप think about this कि
एब्सोल्युटली,
जब
यस,
आप खाना बनाना भी जब लड़की सीखती है, क्यों सीखती है? आप शादी होगी, घर पे जाके खाना बनाना पड़ेगा, सो इट्स अबाउट यू। लड़का
यस।
जो खाना सीखता है, अगर जो सीख भी गया, वो क्यों सीखता है? आप हॉस्टल में जाओगे या कहीं बाहर काम करने जाओगे तो खाना तो
The divide was very clear during our times, but it has
करेक्ट।
changed,
नो
yeah,
नो,
quite a bit now.
इवन
The
नाउ
narrative has changed. Yeah.
narrative has changed, but that men should learn cooking. But why should men learn cooking? To feed
Everybody should,
themselves.
actually, everybody should learn cooking, but it
Everybody
doesn't
should.
come like that. Yes,
Everybody should learn to take care of themselves and people around them. Everybody.
absolutely.
But the fact is, boys, especially in our culture, are even when they're trained for something like that, पहली बात तो ट्रेन ही नहीं करते, और अब थोड़ा बहुत करने भी लगे हैं तो ताकि वो सेल्फ केयर के लिए, whereas girl is
Not to,
conditioned not for care giving, for
yes,
care taking,
yes,
taking your own care,
yes,
राइट?
yes.
सो जो हमारी जनरेशन जो बड़ी हुई, वी वर नेवर, बॉयज वर नेवर ट्रेन टू बी केयर गिवर्स, राइट? सो जब आप बोलते हो कि वो पेरेंट्स हैव टू बी केयर गिवर्स, तो नेचुरली ये रोल मदर का हो जाता है,
हाँ,
राइट?
it's the default role given to the mothers.
It's a role they were trained for, right? Unfortunately, ना हमने आप खुद ट्रेन हुए, ना हमने अपने आप को बाद में भी ट्रेन किया, right? And it's so easy therefore to just pass it on because listen, this is what your domain is, right? But the
Even
fact
women
is,
are conditioned in a way that they think that it is their primary responsibility as well.
correct, वो
In this
that is
society,
the
they grow
mind,
up thinking that it is their responsibility. They are
absolutely.
conditioned in that way.
They are conditioned. That word is correct. Conditioned. They have been conditioned and brought up in a way to think that this is their role. बट आप एक ऑटिस्टिक बच्चे के बारे में सोचिए, ऑटिस्टिक बच्चा सेफ्टी ढूंढ रहा है, द अमाउंट ऑफ एंजाइटी दीज किड्स हैव, मतलब आई कैन सी समटाइम्स व्हेन ईशान इज पुट इन अ न्यू सिचुएशन, ही गेट्स नर्वस, राइट? जैसे अभी हम लोग लास्ट वीक एक ऑटिज्म की मैराथन में गए, एंड ईशान रन्स 5 किलोमीटर्स एवरी डे, एंड वी वर ओनली रनिंग 5 किलोमीटर, राइट? वी वर नॉट ओवर स्ट्रेचिंग आवरसेल्व्स, उतना ही कर रहे थे जितना वो यूज्ड टू है, बट वो भागता है घर के पास। हम मैराथन करने गए थोड़ा दूर, राइट, डिफरेंट रूट, एंड मिडल ऑफ द मैराथन ही हैड अ ह्यूज मेल्टडाउन, राइट? एंड इट वाज वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू कंट्रोल, बट यू हैव टू रियलाइज कि चेंज इन एनवायरनमेंट बच्चे का एंजाइटी सेट ऑफ कर रहा है, राइट? अगर आप सिर्फ उसको केयर गिवर की पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से देखेंगे तो ये एंजाइटी का तो आप देख सोच ही नहीं रहे ना, right? So if the child is looking at you as somebody who can safeguard, then जो एंजाइटी का प्रॉब्लम है वो आप सॉल्व कर सकते हो, केयर गिवर नहीं, राइट? डिफरेंट रोल, राइट? इट्स अ पार्टनरशिप, विच इज व्हाई आई एम सेइंग जो ये ऑटिज्म जो है ये एक पार्टनरशिप है बिटवीन पेरेंट्स, एंड इफ पेरेंट्स कैन गेट ओवर दिस फियर ऑफ कॉज की जो क्यों हुआ एंड ऑल दैट, एंड कम टुगेदर, the child will tell you what your role as a parent is in this upbringing process, right? So मेरी तरफ वो एक different role वो उसके लिए देखता है, वो जब उसको एंजाइटी होती है तो वो मेरी तरफ आता है, पर जब उसको, एंड द वर्ड आई एम यूजिंग इज वेरी डेलिबरेट, जब उसको सुकून चाहिए होता है बच्चे को तो मदद कर जाता है, राइट? सो वो and the child has to tell you. So this is where I think we get it wrong. The child would organically tell you कि आपका रोल क्या है, राइट? चाहे वो आप नेचुरली बेटर केयर गिवर हो, बच्चा आपके पास पहुंच जाएगा। आप नेचुरली ज्यादा प्रोटेक्टिव हो, बच्चा आपके पास उस केस में पहुंच जाएगा। सो लेट्स लीव दैट डिसीजन टू द चाइल्ड, बिकॉज आई थिंक आप वो हटा लोगे, इमेजिन वो चॉइस आपने हटा ली। बच्चा आप आपकी तरफ होप से देख रहा है कि मुझे डर लग रहा है, डू समथिंग, एंड you don't react, you basically walk away. Look at the amount of anxiety that would cause, right? और अगर आप autism मैनेज कर रहे हैं, आप if you are really hoping that the kid would manage his own autism and then become independent, you need to be there, you need to be present.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have Moshmi Dev who is watching with us, and she totally agrees with whatever you are saying about the caregivers. And there are other viewers also who are agreeing, who are in line
Hmm.
with what you are saying, like father's participation
Yeah,
in raising children is very important, as Rashmi Sood mentions.
correct.
So you
So,
are right on point
so
over here.
coming back to the point, I think we should use the word caregiver with a degree of caution, राइट? कि ये भी केयर है, आप प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे हो, वो भी केयर है। सिर्फ बच्चे का
Absolutely.
खाना बनाना, उसको स्कूल लेके जाना, या उसको उसकी स्लीप मैनेज करना, विच अ लॉट ऑफ इनफैक्ट ईशान का भी बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है, यही केयर नहीं है। उसका जो उसके एंजाइटी को सेटल करना, उसका सोशल, सो
इमोशनल नीड्स को, हाँ, इमोशनल
इमोशनल
नीड्स को
नीड्स
टेक केयर कर।
सोशल नीड्स
हाँ।
आप सोचिए। मेरी बेटी के स्कूल में फ्रेंड्स हैं, उनके उसके बिल्डिंग में फ्रेंड्स हैं, वो शाम को जाती है, खेलती है। ईशान, बिकॉज ऑफ हिज सिचुएशन, डज नॉट हैव अ लॉट ऑफ फ्रेंड्स। उसके स्कूल में एक दो बडीज हैं, बट बिल्डिंग में कोई नहीं है। दी loneliness of that child like sometimes scares me, right? And if you and then he's looking at you कि आप ऑफिस से घर वापस आए हो, you will sit with him for some time and you said नहीं नहीं, I'm too tired, I'm going to sit somewhere else. Like imagine the loneliness of that child, right? Like I can't fathom doing something like that.
Especially when he looks up to you for all these emotional support and
Correct. And
comfort. Yeah,
correct. And this is what I say. So listen, my daughter, and I, this is why I say कि, that having a daughter which was who is neurotypical is so helpful, because मुझे पता है कि जब उसको मस्ती करनी होती है, वो आ जाएगी मेरे पास, and because she sees me performing that role, right? So I have to assume कि ईशान भी वही सोच रहा है, वो बोल नहीं पा रहा है, but सोच वो भी वही रहा है। Then whatever role I take with my daughter, I have to take with my son as
now, we also have Padma Jyoti ji here, who is the editor of Talking Fingers. So she is also saying that it's a very poignant observation because in most of the families, mothers are looked upon as the sole caregivers,
well.
and they seldom expect anything out of the father. Father's role is minimal in that those cases, but not in your case.
Hmm.
Absolutely not. And to this, with this, we come to the next question,
Can
which
I
is
add like
related
a
to
two
this
minute?
one. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure,
हाँ,
sure. Yeah.
this is, see, it's like अगर आप किसी को एक शॉर्टकट दे दोगे ना, तो वो इंसान शॉर्टकट ले लेगा, राइट?
Absolutely.
आप
Agreed.
सोसाइटी में फादर्स को एक सिंपल आउट दे दोगे कि ये आपका जॉब नहीं है, पीपल विल टेक इट, राइट? पार्ट ऑफ दिस इज, a big part of it is parents, is the father themselves for taking that shortcut, but society also has to raise their expectation from parents, from the father, right? अब मैं आपको दो एग्जांपल देता हूँ। So I've been always very hands on with my child's therapy and all that. So हम लोग मतलब ऑल्टरनेट करते थे बिटवीन कौन थेरेपी में लेके जा रहे हैं, डिपेंडिंग ऑन किसके पास टाइम है, थोड़ा घर पे कौन है या ऑफिस में कौन है, बोथ ऑफ अस आर वर्किंग। सो वी हैव टू फिगर आउट कि कैसे मैनेज होगा। सो ईशान को समटाइम्स मैं उसके स्पीच थेरेपी में लेके जाता था, और स्पीच थेरेपिस्ट जो है, और उसके कुछ क्वेश्चंस थे, उन्होंने मुझसे पूछा, मैंने उनका जवाब दे दिया। उनको लगा कि ये इनको पता नहीं है, राइट? तो ईशान के साथ उसकी दीदी भी थी, जो उसके साथ उसका केयर गिवर है, मतलब जो कि दिन में उनके साथ जाती रहती है। तो उन्होंने मेरे सामने ही उनसे पूछा, ये ठीक है, ये क्या? उन्होंने, हाँ इनको पता है, ये बता रहे तो ठीक ही होगा. शी डिडंट बिलीव हर. शी कॉल्ड अप माय वाइफ इन हर ऑफिस एंड शी सेड कि ये मैंने ये क्वेश्चन पूछा, ये कुछ ऐसा बोल रहे हैं. एंड माय वाइफ मोना, शी सेड कि हाँ वो बोल रहे हैं तो उनको पता है ना, ही इज देयर. कहते उनको पता है. लाइक द एक्सपेक्टेशन वाज सो लो कि मेरा जो
They tend to negate your involvement actually.
हाँ नहीं नहीं, आई डेंट सी इट दैट वे. आई सॉ कि अच्छा, इन टर्म्स ऑफ क्रेडिबिलिटी, फादर, मेड, मदर. Right? So for me, I was like, अच्छा ठीक है. Then the second incident happened. I was a group of this. I was in a group of parents जिनके बच्चे autism spectrum पे थे, and it was like a very nice group where people will come and share their experiences and all. वहाँ पे like it happens, मतलब 15 moms थी, दो fathers आते थे, right? The ratio was exactly like Padma ma'am is saying, right? फादर्स इन्वॉल्व नहीं थे. तो वो ग्रुप का मुझे अभी नाम याद नहीं, बट एट वन पॉइंट दे डिसाइडेड टू चेंज द नेम ऑफ द ग्रुप टू मदर्स ऑफ समथिंग, राइट? सो इट्स लाइक, ओके, इज दिस अ सटल मैसेज कि आप लोग यहाँ क्या कर रहे हो? सो दोस, एंड आई डोंट थिंक दे मेंट इट दैट वे. आई जस्ट think it's a statement on ki they're not expecting fathers to be there, right?
Majority of them are mothers over there. So
हाँ तो, so and they are okay with it, and I'm saying don't be okay with it. You cannot give a person a simple out and then blame that person for taking it. आप दोगे उसको opportunity, it's on you. Don't give them that
that's what I
opportunity.
mentioned earlier. No? It's all about the conditioning. They are conditioned in the way to think that the whole sole responsibility of the child lies with the mother. So
मुझे
many
ये भी
women
लगता
also
है
believe
ये
that.
कंडीशनिंग है, और ये थोड़ा सा ये गिल्ट भी है, दैट कॉज ये मेरे वजह से हुआ है. वो गिल्ट भी इसके अंदर फैक्टर इन हो रहा है.
Yes, as I often say that women are multitaskers, I agree, but they are not multitaskers by choice. They are multitaskers because they have to, because they do not have the support around themselves. That's why, because multitasking is often glorified, okay, how women are multitaskers, but it should not be glorified,
Correct. And
right?
see, again, one of the important things, and I'm sorry you want to go to a different topic and मैं रोक रहा हूँ आपको, इसकी you cannot lose your sense of individuality in this whole process, right? Yes, we have to make some adjustments. So both of us now work for ourselves because हमें पता है हम वो 9 to 7 kind of job की flexibility हम नहीं कर सकते, मतलब between the two kids, one of who is on the spectrum, हमारे लिए नहीं होगा. तो both of us have figured out a way to work around that. But she used to work before Rishan was born. Should she stop doing that? I think a lot of mothers do take that decision,
Have
and
done that.
it's completely acceptable based on your own situation. But as far as possible, if you don't lose your sense of self, मैं actually last week का जो session था Chinu's mothers, I thought that was very insightful in the sense that she's talking about how he would perceive कि मम्मा परेशान हो, right? He's typing and telling her कि आप कुछ परेशान लग रहे हो मुझे, and then she would go and manage her mood, come down, and he would tell, हाँ अभी आप ठीक लग रहे हो, right? So अगर आप परेशान हो, if you think then, कि ये बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है जो मेरी लाइफ में आ गई है, बच्चा वो परसीव कर लेगा, राइट? हमारे बच्चे बोल नहीं पाते तो वो आपको बता नहीं पाएंगे, तो आप उसको एड्रेस भी नहीं कर सकते, राइट? बट बच्चा वो परसीव कर लेगा. सो इट इज द ओनस इज ऑन अस, you stay happy, and you cannot pretend to be happy for your life, right? वो कितने भी अच्छे आप एक्टर हो, आप pretend नहीं कर सकते, right? वो आप बच्चा परसीव कर ही लेगा. So how do you stay happy? You stay happy by making sure that your sense of individuality is not lost, right? So between Mona and I, we make sure that we have our own time. We spend time with each other. We take time off as individuals. Um, one of the important things is we have to make sure that Naisha doesn't feel कि सारा focus ईशान पे है and I'm invisible. And this is something which um, हमारी काउंसलर थी, उन्होंने हमें बहुत पहले एक बार बोला था कि देखिए, आप आपका सारा फोकस ईशान पे है। मेक श्योर योर डॉटर डज नॉट फील शी इज इनविजिबल, बिकॉज
Mhm.
उनकी बेटी ने उनको एट सम पॉइंट ये बोला था। एंड दैट वी आर ऑलवेज वेरी थैंकफुल कि उन्होंने हमको अर्ली आगाह करा दिया,
पॉइंट
बिकॉज
आउट किया ये,
हाँ, बिकॉज समटाइम्स आप अनकॉन्शियसली चीजें कर जाते हो,
इनएडवर्टेंटली हो जाता है बिकॉज
इनएडवर्टेंटली
ही
हो जाता
नीड्स
है।
मोर अटेंशन, यस।
But I think that's also very important to make sure that the other child is also getting attention. You are also getting attention.
Absolutely. And I think you're touching upon some very important points here, Sumit. And coming from a father's perspective, they are even more important. I hope many fathers listen to this and take some cue from you.
Hmm.
And now let's go to our next question since we have a time crunch over here. So I wanted to ask you a very important question, which people often sort around and don't discuss. But I would like to discuss it with you since Ishan is now in his teens.
Yeah.
So, how did you approach the topic of sex education, good touch and bad touch with him?
Hmm. Yeah. So this is something that we have been very cautious about, right? Last thing you would want is कि so he's 14, right? Curiosity जो है वो मतलब natural है, right? About your own body, about the opposite sex,
Like, yeah,
about
I'll just interrupt you for 1 second, just for our viewers. I would just like to tell them how insightful and sorted Ishan is for a 14-year-old. He understands everything. His understanding of the world around him is fantastic. It's amazing, actually. So, for a sensitive child like him, this topic is very important. Like
yeah.
how parents deal with this sex education.
And we
So,
should
could
come
you
back to
please
that
continue?
because I think a lot of this was a discovery for us because of
Through
talking.
the talking
Yeah.
fingers.
So I
Right,
think we
right.
should come
We'll
back to
come
that
back to
also.
that.
I think both are
Yeah,
very
we'll come back
important.
to that shortly.
Yeah. But so and you don't even have to be sensitive, right? You to मतलब this is the natural process of growing up. कि आप curious होते हो and you
Changes in
discover
your
things.
body and everything. Yes,
Changes in your body, you're curious about self gratification, all those things are bound to come, right? You cannot close your eyes and ears and hope कि ये नहीं होगा, वो होना है.
absolutely.
So at around 10 or so, and the biggest nightmare for me is that he inappropriately touches somebody, right? Because ठीक है, his situation is his situation, but you cannot traumatize another person, right?
Absolutely.
So while the other person gets traumatized, they will not even understand that this was not meant in a negative way. And then it kind of like goes back to कि अच्छा, should there be acceptance of autism and this kind of behavior, right? So अगर if you are aiming for acceptance
It
of
goes to a
autism,
downward spiral actually. If things like that happens, it goes to a
it goes
downward
into
spiral.
correct. So अगर
Yeah,
आप aim कर रहे हैं acceptance का, that world accepts autism, then we have to also train our kids to the best extent we can to actually
absolutely.
manage the bare minimum जो laws of society है, like personal space, about touching. I think wo, and we were very cautious about it right from the beginning. And this is where I think we were also cautious कि ये this is a topic which is important enough for a professional to handle. Right? हम लोगों ने
I
उसको
think being father of a girl also helps.
it absolutely it helps. I think you can put yourself in that perspective without forcing yourself to think
Hmm.
around that because आप वैसे ही organically वो सोच रहे हो. I think that's a good point. But with with my daughter, my wife could have that conversation, right? Good touch, bad touch की conversation when she was 8, uh, about the changes in her body, which is happening right now and all that. Uh, but for Ishan, we had to make sure that it is getting through to him. So we had that conversation. We were not sure कि वो register हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ और कि उसने इतने important topic को coming from a parent, has he understood the importance of it, right? Sometimes ऐसा होता है ना कि आपका जो somebody who's very close tells you something very insightful, आपको लगता है कि मतलब जो हम बोलते हैं घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर, और फिर कोई बाहर से आके जो है बहुत बड़ा एक्सपर्ट आके वही चीज बोल देता है, आपको लगता है अरे क्या इंसाइट आई है, राइट? I think that is true here also. So we got a counselor to come to speak to him. She comes and speaks to him once in a week. तो वो उनके पास पूरा मटेरियल है. शी टॉक्स अबाउट ऑल दीज टॉपिक्स इंक्लूडिंग changes in his body, so growth of pubic hair, beard, the attraction to another person, how is it safe to show, what is not done, where are the limits. So, and then at some point, I think we have to talk to him about self-gratification, what is okay in public, what is not okay in public, those kind of things. But it's an important topic, and I think it's important for him, and it's important for general society and our aim of getting acceptance for autism.
So, in your opinion, it's better to involve an expert while discussing these things with children in spectrum because they will be able to communicate the thing even more properly to them.
हाँ.
Right.
So actually, I think it's a joint endeavor. So मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि everybody needs to do that. We felt
Mhm.
that we didn't know that we were getting across to him the seriousness of this thing, right? So we felt कि हमें ज़रूरत है. But even now, when those conversations happen, one of us is there in the room, right? Not because we want to like teach him or something, but we want to make sure that he understands कि ये इतना serious है that they are sitting there and seeing कि ये conversation हो रही है. It's also important for us to know कि how does he understand this, right? कि क्या tools use हो रहे हैं कि अगर short term में हमें जरूरत पड़ जाए at some point to handle that. You're on a vacation or a counselor is not available. How do we explain that? So it's not something you can outsource. You can find help, right? End of the day, everything related to your child is your responsibility, right? So
Absolutely.
इस केस में हम लोग एक्स्ट्रा हेल्प थोड़ा सा इसलिए सीख करते हैं बिकॉज देर इज potentially this harming somebody else which we would definitely not want.
That's a great insight into this topic because I wanted to understand how parents handle these things from their end. And it's great that you mentioned that you also sought the help of the counselor because I think that's a right way to go about it. So it's great. So now, Sumit, let's come to the next question. Where I just wanted to know about your experiences. Like in the book, many children have mentioned about the different ways that they cope or adapt with stress and duress. So, swimming is one of the things that helps them a great deal.
Hmm.
In Ishan's case, he mentioned that he claps his hands like whenever he
Hmm.
feels anxious and everything to cope. So I just wanted to know whether you have noticed any kind of discriminating behavior or people giving any weird or curious looks while Ishan uses his swimming techniques in public.
So
And how do you like explain these things to people that there is nothing to like, it's just a technique which he
yeah.
uses to cope.
हाँ. So I don't think इतना अपॉर्चुनिटी होता है कि आप सबको समझा दो. सो अभी जैसे ईशान हैड अ मेल्टडाउन, राइट? जो मैराथन के अंदर एज आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट. So he was stimming, it's his way of coping, right? His way of
Mhm.
actually trying to manage the chaos around him.
Anxiety, yeah.
Anxiety जो था, because it was happening on the road. Obviously, there were people who stopped and there was like a crowd. And I didn't bother to explain to him कि क्या हो रहा है because at that point my focus was completely on Ishan.
Mhm.
Right? ऐसा भी हुआ है, हम एयरपोर्ट पे गए हैं. आई रिमेम्बर वेरी डिस्टिंक्टली एक बार. सो अभी क्या हो गया, वो थोड़ा सा बड़ा हो गया. पहले तो जब छोटा था तो मैं उसके साथ जब सिक्योरिटी की में जाता था तो कोई कुछ बोलता नहीं था. अभी जब एंड ही इज ऑलमोस्ट लाइक हेयर इन हाइट. सो जब उसके साथ मैं जाता हूँ तो सिक्योरिटी वाले पहले बोलते हैं नहीं नहीं एक एक करके आइए. देन आई हैव टू एक्सप्लेन टू कि नहीं वो ऑटिज्म है तो वो रुकेगा नहीं. तो बट मोस्ट ऑफ दीज गाइस आर एटलीस्ट, आई मीन they'll say okay ठीक है आ जाइए आप साथ में. तो अभी रिसेंटली ही वो उन्होंने सिक्योरिटी वालों ने उसको वार्न किया. एंड ही आस्क्ड हिम अ क्वेश्चन कि आपका बच्चा आपका नाम क्या है.
Mhm.
तो मैंने उनको बोला कि नहीं वो बोलता नहीं है. एंड ही वॉज कम्प्लीटली टेकन अबैक. अब उनको अब क्या है ये, दिस इज आई आई वोंट ब्लेम हिम. ही सेड अरे आपने इनको डॉक्टर को नहीं दिखाया. And I was like, and I don't know what happened to me. I'm like, अच्छा इसको डॉक्टर को दिखा सकते थे क्या? And both of us paused for a second and we started laughing, right?
Yeah.
And see, I don't blame him
But people
because
say I'm just concerned. They have question silly questions. Yeah,
but he
I
didn't know what
understand.
to say, right? He didn't know what
Hmm.
to say. He was reacting to a situation he was very unfamiliar with. It is the job of a parent, right? So जो हम acceptance level पे आए थे,
Hmm.
acceptance का जो next level है is advocacy, right?
Right.
We have to advocate for our child and for our society, right? We have to tell people, he, this is okay, this is normal. In fact, I mean, my last week, I was in a lift, and there was a family with a child who's probably 20, and he was stimming, right? And for me, because I knew what I was absolutely fine. I made sure that I don't look towards him or make him or stare so that he doesn't feel
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
right. Yeah.
But I was looking at people who were standing next to me in the lift, and you could see that they were scared, right? They were
Yes.
scared
Yes.
because they thought he was being violent.
That's the whole point of asking this question, just how people react, because it's very important for the society to be like understanding and to be accepting these things as normal. They do not
Yeah,
normalize, they tend to stare. And
correct,
even I've seen the thing you told about, just mentioned about the Sharna, he doesn't speak. I've seen people asking in front of the child, अरे इतना बड़ा बच्चा हो गया बोलता नहीं है. So
correct,
they have to think twice before saying anything like that. They have to be sensitive enough to not mentioning such things in front of the child. He
correct.
might not speak, but he understands too well.
Absolutely.
So
And
these things,
in
yeah, these
Ishan's case,
things.
he understands everything, right? The problem is because he can't speak, he can't protest. And the form of protest is therefore physical, right?
Yes,
It's like a like vicious circle, right? आप जिस चीज से डर रहे हैं आप उसी चीज को encourage भी कर रहे हैं by actually not recognizing the situation. But ठीक है, I think this is where advocacy needs to lead to more
yes,
awareness, creating a
yes.
society where the child feels safe.
Yes. This reminds me a question that was asked to Ishan. The question was your thoughts on the myth that non-speaking is same as non-thinking. And he answered it beautifully. He said that it's unfair. I think about many things, but I don't know how to say them. Sometimes people say things in front of me thinking I don't understand.
Yeah,
I feel like laughing if only they knew.
correct.
So it's
No,
he has put it so beautifully, it's articulated it so beautifully that he understands everything. But people do not understand that he understands.
see, this is where I think I'm very thankful that this talking fingers thing happened. Because जब आप क्या होता है जब आप नॉर्मल कॉन्वर्सेशन कर रहे हो तो इवन व्हेन ये उसके डिवाइस के साथ आप कॉन्वर्सेशन करो इट्स मोर ट्रांजैक्शनल राइट आपको आज क्या डिसीजन लेना है राइट व्हाट यू वांट टू ईट डू यू वांट टू गो हियर दोस काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस एटलीस्ट हमारे दिमाग में ये थॉट्स कभी नहीं आए थे कि हम उनसे उससे पूछे कि आप क्या सोचते हो इस सिचुएशन के बारे में
उनके इनर मोस्ट फीलिंग्स के बारे में कभी डिस्कशन
हाँ
नहीं होते
बिकॉज
होंगे ना.
because we are actually at this point so overwhelmed कि वो इतना भी कर रहा है कि आप इतने में and it's our limitation right कि हम इतना ही
हाँ.
सोच के यहाँ पे रुक गए हैं right whereas उसका thought is evolved to a different level मैं उसके answers पढ़ता हूँ and I realize कि he's so articulate but also वो उसके answers जो है are very terse right short
Very
मतलब
crisp,
एक one
very
sentence
crisp
two
to the point.
sentences
Yeah.
and there is this sense of humor which he throws in middle, which I'm like, Acha,
Yes, yes.
there is a sense of humor as well, right? So humor actually requires a lot of thought, right? It's not, it's an evolved thinking process. So as in his own words, like,
You
ठीक है,
have to have a certain level of intellect to have that kind of
absolutely.
humor.
And if you have that intellect, then you answered that question in itself, right? Just because I'm not speaking does not mean I can't think. You're demonstrating that intellect.
Yeah, it's actually amazing what these kids have written, how they have expressed their feelings through this book. It's actually mind-boggling. The more you read, the more you understand how less we know about them.
And also, I think for me, the biggest upside of this has been that we've been able to get his views on the world, right? Not on transactional decisions. I think वो that makes us realize कि अच्छा हम maybe the constraint lies with us and not with him, right? And I think Mona ने जब when she did this Facebook live, she talked about um, how we kept teaching him ABCD, ABCD, ABCD when he had a fully developed vocabulary of multi alphabet words, right? I think come on, I'm thinking to myself, तो बच्चा जो है मतलब परेशान हो गया होगा वो एबीसीडी एबीसीडी करते हुए।
Absolutely, it's like आप एक ग्रेजुएशन के स्टूडेंट को आप ऐसे लिखाना सिखा रहे हो, तो इट्स
नहीं,
जस्ट
और फिर
लाइक
आप बोल
दैट।
रहे हो कि अरे वो तो इंटरेस्टिंग नहीं ले रहा, एडीएचडी है उसको। नहीं, आप उसको बोर कर रहे
राइट।
हो। तो
हाँ,
a lot of constraint actually lies on our side as well. I think we have to let go of our constraints, and only then we will they would be able to show you what they can do.
एब्सोल्युटली एग्री, एब्सोल्युटली। And so, Sumit, your insights were really helpful. And with this, we come to an end to this episode. But before concluding, I would like to thank you again for your time and valuable insights. And I'm sure your experiences and your anecdotes will help many parents in charting their course in this tested water. And I hope they do, they listen to you more, because you, as a father, have put up some really important points that were not discussed earlier in this platform. And we are really thankful for that. And thanks to all the viewers for your time and support to the cause. And together we'll surely bring some awareness and compassion and acceptance into this world. And thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Tanushree. Thank
wonderful
you
day
very much.
ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.